There you go, Jeff. How's it going?
Very good. Thanks, everybody, for being here. This is the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign kickoff. You are on the live stream, obviously. We are still gathering here and getting ourselves settled. So we'll be a few minutes, and Bob will provide a few videos for you to look at while we're waiting. We will cut to live stream as soon as we start talking here. Thanks for coming to the live stream.
Good.
Wanted to do. Yes, you will.
No, I won't. You know me better than that.
Don't just yell at me. You'll keep screaming it.
All right, give me 3, 2, 1 or something.
Yep, we're live right now. 3, 2, 1. Welcome.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody here, and welcome everybody on the live stream. I'm Jeff Wolf, and for those of you here, we said there's a camera there, and for those of you with a camera there, we've all got our food and beverage, and so hope you do too. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an activist. I'm a longtime political supporter. I got into politics in 98 or 89, rather, when I moved to Vermont the first time. Solar energy pioneer, climate activist, co-creator of a symposium in Stratford that ties together faith and all the above. And I've known Bernie Sanders personally and done work with him for over a decade. I knew him before he came to love solar power, so a long time. Who's putting this event on tonight? All of you. Because if I'm just standing here, and all of you out there in Webland, if I'm just standing here, it doesn't do any good. So you're all putting this event on. The group that helped me and helped all of us do this is called People for Bernie Sanders. It actually is a bunch of activists out of the Occupy Wall Street movement, I believe, is what I've been told. They are not funded. They are not seeking funding. This is not a fundraising event for People for Bernie Sanders. However, they're ahead of the Sanders campaign in terms of mobilizing. So they gave me the resources to be able to do this. I hope you've all signed the sign-in sheet. If you haven't, please do. I will promise you that you will get emails of a political nature, but you're here, so you want them. So why are we here? Ostensibly, we're here to launch the campaign for president of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. But we're really here because America is in trouble. And I want to tell you, these are all my words here. This isn't something I got scripted from the campaign. This is me. We're here because America is in trouble. Our middle class is not simply dying, it's being killed. Minorities are being repressed. And we all know that that repression is just the first step in more repression. We have a wealth gap greater than just about any other country on earth. Our prisons are overcrowded with offenders who should not be in prison. We are increasingly having our vote taken away through both disenfranchisement and lack of integrity at the polls. We are the only advanced nation on earth without universal health care, and the list goes on and on. We're also here because the earth is in trouble. Climate disruption is mounting, yet snowballs find a friendly home in the US Congress. Perhaps Senator Inhofe can bring some glaciers there from Glacier National Park to save them before he sells Glacier National Park. We're here because the Democratic Party, while it has been listening to these problems, has not been acting. We are here because rule by the Republican Party could not simply erase our democracy, but turn us from a republic into an oligarchy through both immediate action and a final takeover of the Supreme Court. We are here because this is the first event in the long road that ends when Vermont's U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders is sworn in as the 45th President of the United States.
Woo!
Where does Bernie come from, and how does he think? Bernie's a New Yorker, born and brought up in Brooklyn, New York. Went to the University of Chicago, where he was very active in the civil rights movement in the early 60s. After living on a kibbutz in Israel for a short period, Bernie moved to Vermont and held a series of low-wage jobs: carpenter, writer, filmmaker, researcher. Bernie's parents were poor, hardworking immigrants. Bernie's parents were the kind of people that the Republicans don't want in this country. When people ask me, what does Bernie stand for? I always answer, Bernie stands for the middle class. Look at what Bernie stands for, and behind it, you will see support for the middle class worker, and the middle class worker family. I can think of no positions that he takes or has taken that do not fit that description. After I listened to Bernie, I am never in doubt of his position. He is not nuanced in his speech. He does not equivocate. He does not lie. Want to know what Bernie thinks? Ask him, listen to him. He'll tell you exactly what he's thinking. Who does Bernie appeal to? I think almost all of us in the room here were in Vermont back in the Take Back Vermont days. I think that was 2002, when right after civil unions was signed by Howard Dean, there was a very divisive gubernatorial election in Vermont. And there was a very right-wing candidate put up, and the Republicans were both scared and fear-mongering. But the amazing thing was, you drive around Vermont, and you'd see lawns full of signs for the Democratic candidates and a Bernie Sanders sign. And you'd drive around other roads in Vermont, you'd see lawns full of signs for Republican candidates and a Bernie Sanders sign. The elections that year were incredibly close in Vermont, and Bernie won by a landslide. Bernie's message and his honesty resonate across the board, across income, across the demographics. Bernie's message and his honesty resonate with everybody. We need to work to have him heard. What does Bernie want to do? He's got 12 initiatives for America. These have been published for a while. It's a great economic plan. The 12 initiatives. Rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. And I just want to note, Vermonters have ingenuity. They didn't have a tripod. Rebuild infrastructure. Roads, bridges, railway. I took a train trip recently with Dory out to Chicago, and we took train because it actually worked conveniently. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. And it was also really depressing because the best trains in America are worse than the best trains in India. And the average train in America is worse than the average train in China. I haven't ridden the ones in India, I've ridden the ones in China. China has a great train system. Our train system is not first world, not second world. Our train system is horrible. Our infrastructure is poor. The infrastructure that helped build America and make our economy grow is crumbling. We've got to reinvest in it. Number 2 on the list. This is number 1. Number 2 on the list. Address climate change. With Bernie in the campaign, we're going to hear a lot about climate change. Last election, there were, I think, 2 questions asked at any point in time about climate change in the debates. It just wasn't an issue. It's going to be an issue this time because we need to fix it. We can fix it. We can fix it and improve our economy. We can fix it and make our lives better. And if we ignore it, our economy worsens and our lives get worse. And the lives particularly of, no surprise here, middle class get worse fastest. So this is a huge issue in terms of supporting the middle class. It's a huge issue in terms of economic development. Solar power now employs twice as many people as coal mining does. So those miners need jobs. Solar needs workers. Solar employs, I believe the stat is something like solar employs the largest number of veterans now. And there's a new veterans employment program with solar. These men and women who went and gave their service to the country and come back and the country gives them nothing. Solar is creating jobs for them. Renewables are creating jobs for them. Addressing climate change, energy efficiency. These are all high labor areas with skilled employment. By addressing climate change, we will address many of the economic ills of the country and address the social ills. Real tax reform. And I can speak off the top of my head on climate change. Tax reform, not so much. So I'll read part of what this, his 12 points are available online in various formats. We'll give you a link for that. You're on the web, and you hear a link for that later so you can review these at your own and pass them on and share them with your friends. So real tax reform, what Bernie himself says is, at a time of massive wealth and income inequality, we need a progressive tax system in this country which is based on ability to pay. It is not acceptable that major profitable corporations have paid nothing in federal income taxes, and that corporate CEOs in this country often enjoy an effective tax rate which is lower than their secretaries. It is absurd that we lose over $100 billion with a B dollars a year in revenue because corporations and the wealthy stash their cash in offshore tax havens around the world. The time is long overdue for real tax reform. Four, protecting. You can see why I was never a school teacher. The most vulnerable Americans. Again, in the senator's words, millions of seniors live in poverty, and we have the highest rate of childhood poverty in any major country. We must strengthen the social safety net, not weaken it. Instead of cutting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and nutrition programs, we should be expanding these programs. Healthcare for all. My Cobra, which I got after I left Grow Solar, ended on December 31st, 2013. And I was going to have to buy individual health care, which we all know is quite expensive because I'm self-employed. January 1st, 2014 was the first day you could buy insurance under the American Affordable Care Act. So it worked perfectly for me that there was affordable health care through the Vermont exchange that we could get. Still is not cheap, but it is affordable and we were able to get it. So, from a personal point of view, the Affordable Care Act has positively impacted my life. It's made my life better and easier. Senator Sanders says, Americans spend about twice as much per capita on healthcare as almost any other developed nation. But our outcomes are not as good as others that spend much less. We can do better. We must do better. Today, some 38 million Americans lack health insurance. And that's even after the ACA has come into place, which has given a lot of people who didn't have insurance. We still have 38 million Americans lacking health insurance. Many others delay going to the doctor because of high deductibles and unaffordable co-payments. While the number of uninsured Americans will go down with the implementation, this must have been written earlier, will go down with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, tens of millions of Americans will remain uninsured. So perhaps that $38 million number is wrong, but I think it's still pretty close to that. The goal of an effective healthcare system is to do everything possible to enable people to live long and healthy lives. Sadly, the American system fails to do that and falls behind many other countries. While we devote 18% of our gross domestic product to healthcare, we rank 33rd in life expectancy, 34th in infant mortality, and trail in many other health outcomes. Harvard University study indicated that incredibly some 45,000 Americans die needlessly each year because they do not get to a doctor in time. 45,000 Americans, that's more than die by guns or cars. I start my approach to healthcare from a very basic premise. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Unfortunately, unique among major nations, that statement is not true for the United States, where access to healthcare depends on how much money you have and what your employer is willing to provide. We can go through more of this later. He goes on in quite a bit of detail on his plan for healthcare. Bev?
He's advocating single payer as opposed to, my understanding in the most recent information that I've read.
Establishing a single payer system will mean peace of mind for all Americans. You're right, single payer system.
Yeah. Okay.
Taking on Wall Street. Wall Street. Again, in the senator's words, the function of banking is to facilitate the flow of capital into productive and job-creating activities. In my words, we used to have, when I was growing up, we had a financial services industry. The banks worked with businesses so the businesses could do their business. They facilitated business. Today, read the headlines, listen to the stories, it's the financial industry. It's as if they don't need to provide service and they don't need business. They can write each other checks and make money on it. So it's gone from working with business to create the economy to trying to be the economy itself. It doesn't need you. Back to the senator's words. Financial institutions cannot be an island unto themselves, standing as huge profit centers outside of the real economy. Today, 6 huge Wall Street financial institutions have assets equivalent to 61% of our gross domestic product. 61% of our GDP. Over $9.8 trillion. These institutions, so that's 6 institutions, 61%, that's each one has 10% of our economy. One company, 10% of our economy. These institutions underwrite more than half the mortgages in this country and more than 2/3 of the credit cards. The greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior, these are the senator's words, of major Wall Street firms plunged this country into the worst financial crisis since the 1930s. They are too powerful to be reformed. They must be broken up. And I want to take a break here in going through the 6 things here, because it's a beautiful segue into campaign financing. I have in my hand here, if I can read it, a listing of the top contributors to Hillary Clinton and the top contributors to Bernie Sanders. And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20. 20 contributors for each of them. And this is off of the Open Secrets website. This is not the Sanders campaign generator. This is opensecrets.org. You can go look it up for yourself. Guess what kind of company has been the biggest contributor to Hillary Clinton?
Thanks.
Citigroup. Guess what kind of contributor has been the biggest contributor to Bernie Sanders?
Unions.
Got it. Unions. Specifically the Machinist Aerospace Workers Union. In fact, and I wish I could see this better, but out of the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Lehman Brothers is on the list for Hillary Clinton. They're out of business. But 4 of the top 6 banks are within her top 10. I said there were 20 contributors on each list. The lowest contributor to Hillary, which is Greenberg Traurig LLP, they contributed $272,000 to Hillary. Guess how much the machinist workers contributed to Sanders?
75,000.
95. So the top contributor to Sanders contributed about 1/3 of what the 20th contributor to Clinton did. But in the first 24 hours after Bernie announced, he raised $1.5 million, more than Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Paul. And he did it with 100,000 contributions. 100,000 contributions. That's $15 a shot. I don't know. I got to look up how many contributions Cruz and Ron Paul and Rubio got. Probably about 6. I mean, I don't know how else you point out the differences between these two candidates. We can talk about positions all night long. But you know, the old saw in business and politics and life often is follow the money. Staggering. And I was going to do math and stuff about totally different things up, but one of my favorite quotes is, "I don't do math in public." It was actually stated by the CEO of Arthur Anderson when he was under investigation for the Enron scandal. but it is one piece of advice I try to live by. So how are we doing? Do we want to take a little break, refresh beverages, get some food, and then I can go through the other 5 or the 6, or we should just keep on going through the other 6 and then take a break?
Let's go
Right.
through.
Keep on plowing through. Number 7, making college affordable for all. I put myself through college. I got a little bit of money from my folks, but mainly worked jobs and got loans. And my first year in college, it cost about $6,500. And my last year in college, it cost $13,000. I put my 2 girls through college, but I made them each take out a loan for 1 semester. That 1 semester was $25,000. So they came out of school with more debt than I did, and they paid for 1 semester. Now, there's been inflation, but not that much. Not that much. College has become a right of the privileged. And we don't all need to go to Harvard or Yale or Cornell for that matter. And we don't all need to go to college. Vocational education is very important. There should be more apprenticeship programs and trade education. That stuff is very important and can lead to very, very good jobs. But for the kids who should go to college, they should go to college. It shouldn't be that they should go to college and can't. And, you know, Germany has free tuition for students. Germany has free tuition for American students. You can go to Germany and get free tuition. We can't give free tuition even to our own citizens. Something is wrong. And Germany is not the only country that does that. Something's wrong. Trade policies that benefit American workers. And, you know, this is trade policies. This also runs right into the tax reform issue. The only issue where I have had a strong disagreement with the senator, and continue to, because of the way the United States is today, is that he is for tariffs on Chinese solar panels, and I'm against them. Because lower cost solar panels create a lot more jobs in the US, good jobs in the US, than high cost solar panels do. High cost solar panels create a few jobs. Low cost solar panels create a lot of jobs. With the policies he's advocating for, and the support he would give industry, we could create low-cost solar panels here. But the way our manufacturing incentives are set up, where these companies are incentivized to ship their jobs overseas. The U.S. my beef with the senator is that he's trying to solve the U.S. problem with manufacturing on the back of the solar panel industry, whereas the U.S. simply has a broad-scale problem of manufacturing. He would address the broad-scale problem of manufacturing. I don't know if you've seen the news or not, but does everybody know what the TPP is? Trans-Pacific Partnership? Okay, I see everybody nodding their heads. They should be going like this. I'd like to tell you in detail for a couple minutes about what's in the TPP, but I can't because nobody has seen it outside of the administration. We've heard rumors about it. We know some of the corporations that have seen it, And since they're people, why can't other people see it? The logic goes backwards. If it goes forwards, it should go backwards too, shouldn't it? So he's vehemently against fast track authority in the Senate to pass the TPP. He is pulling every parliamentary procedure he can. Many of our good friend the Democrats are for fast track because they think they have assurances. Senator Wyden put assurances in the language that the TPP negotiators would have to use good faith to try to get some things maybe in the treaty, possibly. That's just not good enough. For me, it's not good enough for Senator Sanders. If we're going to have a treaty, it needs to be a treaty that puts everybody on a level playing field and doesn't disadvantage American workers. Because you can't have a country if the workers don't have work. Pretty much that easy.
It's not just the workers, also, it's a lot of environmental issues are skirted with the TPP.
Yeah.
Or,
As have,
yeah.
with what we think the TPP
Right.
does,
Right.
there are environmental, and some of the assurances the senators have gotten is that the environmental issues wouldn't be skirted, but there's no assurances when there's no document. And even assurances can be pretty unassuring. So yes, it's the workers, it's the environment, it's every asset, every facet you can think of the TPP is fraught with danger and ill. Other than that, it's good. Pay equity. Pay equity for who?
All.
Everybody.
Women.
Women. I don't need pay equity. I got it. I'm a white guy.
Yeah, but pay equity for minorities as well. That's part of that.
I'm not an expert on this, and maybe I should read these words on this, but I believe that even a minority man does better than a minority woman.
Depends where you are, but overall, that's my understanding too.
He doesn't address it. It's a good topic for us to bring up. Women workers today earn 78%. I had heard 77%. Let's not quibble over a penny. Of their male counterparts. We need pay equity in our country. Equal pay for equal work. It's did I say talk straight? It's not like we need to try and bring this up and no, we need equal pay. This shouldn't be hard. It's actually really easy. Speaking of pay, raise the minimum wage. When I was in minimum wage land, it was $3.35 an hour or something like that, and then they did raise it actually when I was still in minimum wage land. And they raised it a real amount, and I fortunately wasn't trying to raise a family on that. I don't know if I could have or not, but I do know that that was 35 years ago, and the minimum wage has basically doubled in 35 years. And I don't need to actually go out and do the studies and try and live on it to figure out that you can't live on a minimum wage. I don't think you can live on a minimum wage as a single person. Certainly not in a lot of the country. Maybe there are pockets where you can do it, but certainly not in a lot of the country. And you sure as heck can't live on a minimum wage and support a family. That it's a minimum wage. And there's the thesis that if you raise the minimum wage, you'll decrease the number of jobs in America. And it's a nice talking point. It just isn't backed up by any study. And there's the thesis that if you raise the minimum wage, that you'll hurt the economy. But the fact is, it is backed up by studies. When you give a low-income person $1, they spend it because they need to pay for fuel or buy food or pay for housing. It goes out the door. They don't start, hey, I'm making $14 an hour now. I think I'll start saving $3 an hour. They don't do that. They can't. Their expenses are too high. So every dollar they make goes back into the economy and drives the economy. The study's done on unemployment checks. When you extend unemployment because we have a recession, you extend unemployment, it's actually an economic stimulus because that money goes from the government to the unemployed person right into the economy to help other people have jobs. And that's been proven. Not that the other party believes it, but it's been proven. So raising the minimum wage has a positive effect in the economy. Is it tough for some businesses? Sure it is. Sure it is. But it's tougher on the millions of people who are trying to live on minimum wage right now. And does Walmart need to raise their prices if they go to a $15 minimum wage? Maybe. Or maybe they need to take a lower profit. The Walton family, I'm not as good at Bernie as Bernie is at stats, but the Walton family has what? As much wealth as 30% of the country, the bottom 30% of the country. It's some staggering number, absolutely staggering number. So, could they take a pay cut? I'm not an anti-capitalist. Bernie is, from everything I know, he's not an anti-capitalist. I am a capitalist. But I'm a capitalist who's for fair capitalism. And you got to pay your employees what it takes to live. Because if you don't pay your employees what it takes to live, I pay your employees. Because when your employees need food stamps to survive, who pays for the food stamps? It's not the Waltons. It's me. It's you. So the wage is too low, but people still get paid somehow or other. Because they fortunately in this country, so far, they don't actually go out and starve to death often. Sometimes, but not often. And so somebody's paying for the food for them. Somebody's paying the Section 8 housing vouchers to give them lower cost housing. That's you and I. So we're subsidizing the Waltons. We're subsidizing McDonald's. We're subsidizing them so they can have their low prices that America loves. Let's try the experiment the other way. Let's try the experiment where we pay people what it costs them to live, and we stop having to shell it out of our own pockets. And then maybe I can afford to go shop at Walmart. There's other problems too with Walmart, but you get this idea. Grow the trade union movement. Now, as I said at the beginning of this, I'm not an official spokesman for Bernie Sanders. And a lot of these words are my words, except where I say that they're Bernie's words. I haven't been a strong supporter of a union for most of my life. But in the last 5 years, I've developed a friendship with a guy named Dave Foster, who used to be the United Steelworkers executive committee head of the District 13, which is the northwest U.S. And he had left the United Steelworkers. I mean, this guy has union tattooed on his butt, okay? But many years ago, he figured out that if it protected the environment, he made more jobs. If it picked the environment the right way, he could make more union jobs. And so he found himself as a union organizer, an activist, and executive board member, working to create good environmental laws in these states to boost employment, to get those laws enacted and get those opportunities taken. And he and I got to know each other because he founded something called the Blue-Green Alliance, which is an alliance between the United Steelworkers and SEIU and Communication Workers of America and several other unions allied with Sierra Club, NRDC, Union of Concerned Scientists, and other environmental groups. That's why it's the Blue-Green Alliance. And I first got to know Dave when he issued a climate change statement. And this is back about 5 years ago. It was the strongest climate change statement I had seen from any organization. Not from any labor organization, not from any environmental organization, but from any organization across the board. Because Dave got it. So through Dave, I got to understand the idea that as we work to create an economy and the infrastructure we need to fight climate, to address climate change, we can create more jobs. And if the unions do a good job, they can help with those jobs. Because we need massive job retraining. I'll tell you what, unions can do a good job of job retraining. And I had the opportunity to meet with Leo Gehring, who is the president, longtime president of the United Steelworkers. And he admitted that they haven't always played their cards right as a union. And that in the future, they're looking at doing more to work together with management to create solutions that win. I was at the Blue-Green Conference back a few weeks ago and moderating a panel with some corporations, like UPS was on it, their chief sustainability officer, and Kaiser Permanente was on it. And what Kaiser's found is that the union workers are actually the folks who can figure out some of the environmental issues, bring them forward to management, and drive change. Because union workers are concerned about their fellow employees. And the union workers more and more concerned about a livable environment for themselves and their families and the world, but themselves and their families. So the power of the union to help organize labor, to help us actually create the solutions we need, needs to be understood. It's huge. So I have become a union supporter, which is a pretty interesting transformation for me in my life. Unions have their issues. Corporations have their issues. I don't know if you noticed that or not. So we've all got our issues. But unions have can be a fundamental driving force. And the demolition of the labor unions have been taking place in Wisconsin and such is nothing but an attack on the middle class. One of my favorite quotes from our governor, Pete Shumlin, here is he's talking at some event, and he said, "You know those snow truck drivers, and those teachers, and those highway repair guys, who all caused that recession?" Well, they didn't. They didn't. This point. The unions didn't cause that recession, but they can help us come out of it. Last point, and it kind of plays in here, kind of a nice order of direction.
Okay.
12. Creating worker co-ops. Pretty interesting one to have as a platform in a presidential campaign, I think. We need to develop, this is in the senator's words, we need to develop new economic models to increase job creation and productivity. Instead of giving huge tax breaks to corporations which ship our jobs to China and other low-wage countries, we need to provide assistance to workers who want to purchase their own business. Invest in America by establishing worker-owned cooperatives. Study after study shows that when workers have an ownership stake in the businesses they work for, productivity goes up. Absenteeism goes down, and employees are much more satisfied with their jobs. pretty simple. Invest in America, invest in American workers, invest in the companies that American workers create. It's been known for decades that the job engine in this country is not the major corporations. More jobs are made by small companies. So do what we can to create more small companies, do what we can to create employee investment in terms of ownership of those companies can do nothing but good things for the economy. Greetings.
Sorry,
It's all right.
I'll review the
I'll start over again.
Please don't do it for me.
Some people might say you have impeccable timing. So that's the 12-point plan. You know, is there anything revolutionary here?
Only that it's incredibly obvious.
It's like Homer Simpson saying, duh. The only thing revolutionary here is that it's not being done. You know, Bill McKibben has a great line when he talks about radicals. And, you know, he's accused of being a climate radical. He says, look, all I want is the atmosphere we had in the 1980s. These other companies want to change the atmosphere. Who's the radical? Right? So I look at this and say, you know, this is the unradical. This is trying to create America the way it was. Back when it was a little bit easier to believe in American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism to me has a very different meaning today. But this is not radical. And I actually take issue with Sanders' website, which, Bob, what's the tagline on it? Welcome to the revolution or something? Or?
It is a political revolution is coming.
Yeah, so I think that the important thing to get out of the statement is a political revolution is coming, but these aren't revolutionary ideas. And so the political revolution is in the fundraising, the campaigning, and maybe most importantly in the honesty. That's a revolutionary idea in America. All right, I only got about another 2 hours to go.
Jeff, on number 12, does he, in his material, is he talking about creating worker co-ops or worker-owned businesses? Because they're two very different models.
I hear you. That's a great question. I read to you everything I know.
Okay.
I think the gist that I got from it is different economic models.
Yeah.
So all of the above.
So whatever seems to work for whoever's developing the business at the particular time.
I mean, from what I know of the senator, he would be sort of broadly supportive and not necessarily dictate it's got to be this color or that color or this shape or that shape.
Right.
Because I think that there are a lot of different shapes that can work depending upon who the people are and what the business is. Different businesses, different industries fall into different kinds of business structures more easily.
So there's nothing up there about foreign policy.
Well, this is his 12-point plan for America. So,
Okay.
I mean,
I think I know what it's for.
point taken is, but
I mean, because we spend some zillion dollars to help rebuild Afghanistan. Why aren't we spending that zillion dollars rebuilding Amtrak?
so the infrastructure investment,
Yes.
number one on the list.
Yeah. So it's
I assume he will have some foreign policy. I mean, he's just started and he's way behind in his literature. He'll have foreign policy statements come out, and much more information on these points come out as well.
I think we're pretty much out front of all of this. You know, all of us in this room are really pretty serious activists for making something happen. And I think the opportunity to go over the 12-point plan, at least for the U.S., is a great place to start. So,
You know, historically, Bernie has been very anti-war, and pretty anti-war across the board. One of the fascinating things about Bernie is that he is as staunchly pro-veteran as he is anti-war. He's gotten awards from the VFW for his work with veterans. And, you know, they said, this is kind of weird giving this to you, but you support our guys better than anybody else does. Because he believes in paying debts. So, anybody need another drink or food or everybody has to take a cookie.
Cookies in the pocket, folks.
Everybody has to take a cookie.
Somebody said it, if, you know, when I was in the minimum wage, it was like $1.25.
Yeah.
Just a little older than you. But
Which
somebody
shows
said,
how fast it went up, actually.
Yes.
You are only a little older than me.
yes, somebody said that if the minimum wage went up just based on inflation, it would be $20 an hour today.
I don't doubt that. Yeah. No, the minimum wage has not, it's so far below inflation, it's a national disgrace.
No, yeah.
And putting it to $15 an hour, you know, I haven't done all that math. But, you know, like, people I know, when I hired people at Grow Solar and such, you know, we gave people, this is a few years ago, we started people at $13, $14 an hour, and it was not a bad start.
Right.
Is it the right number? I don't know. But it's
I mean, even 15, it's like, if
Yeah,
you're gonna raise a family, it's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of,
but you can think that if you had two people working at 15,
yeah,
you have it works.
you have a shot.
You know, one has to work nights and one works days, so you can take care of the kids, but you got a shot at least, whereas now you don't have a shot either. So it's yeah, I don't know what that right number is, but I do know it's not 795 or whatever it is now. No, nor is it 10.
Jeff, do you want to say anything to the folks at home, and I can close this out, or do you want to?
So
Yeah,
I'm
more
going a
stuff
little
to
for it.
cover.
So folks at home, first that voice you hear in the background sometimes is Bob Farnham. And we're just taking a little break, so you can take a little break and we'll reconvene in another 3 or 4 minutes here. We've got another half hour to go or so maybe, but important information to convey. So talk among yourselves in the camera. Welcome.
I missed the first 6 points, but I'm finding my mind.
That's what we can do. Flip whenever.
Oh, there's twice as many people at home watching as there are here, so
Oh, there are
that's pretty good. Yeah, got a good list.
Stratford people.
No, they're all over.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Aaron.
How do you do?
My son Danny.
How do you do?
Junior.
So how many other people are hooked up, do you know?
Let's see. About 40 people.
All right, let's come on back in if we can. Back to work. You had your chance, you didn't run away. And I want to actually note for a minute that my co-host, my father there, Fred Wolf, we put this event on in 3 days, perhaps. And it was last night at about 10:30 that Bob Farnham hit me on Facebook and said, "We should live stream this."
Never stops.
So it was busy today. And I had a radio show I had to do at noon that I was on for an hour, so that was busy. So we put this together really fast. But why I started saying all this was most of the food you're eating here is either organic or from Vermont or both.
Thanks.
And I did that purposely because it's really important. You are what you eat, and America is what we eat. So it's not all natural, it's not all organic. Maybe if I had a few more days to put this together, maybe it would be, but it was thought about and will be thought about. All right, so this is all great, right?
Yeah, how are we gonna get them away?
Now what? Now what?
I'm not worried about Vermont.
My first point here is we think Bernie will take Vermont.
We think so. Kind of a shoe in here.
Yeah. So first of all, if you have any friends who are thinking about moving to Vermont, don't have them registered to vote here yet. we actually told one of our friends, no, don't do it, don't just stay where you. So second thing is we, and you on the camera, we are ahead of the campaign right now. As I said, this is people for Bernie Sanders. This is not the Bernie Sanders campaign that helped me stand here. And the documents I'm reading out of, I got off of the People for Bernie Sanders stuff, not out of the Bernie Sanders website, which just has a contribute here button. So we're ahead. So that's the point. You all came tonight to like the first event that you were ever asked to come to support Bernie Sanders for president. This isn't the fourth time you've been asked, or the third time, or the 12th time, which is usually the case. So I've got good news for you. You're all campaign insiders now.
And we get the first t-shirts, right?
Absolutely.
Get Bo's t-shirts.
The first t-shirt.
You are all campaign insiders, and you're all campaign leaders. What does that mean? I don't have a freaking clue. Okay. But it means that I have your email addresses. Aaron, did you and Daniel sign in the email address?
Yes.
I have all your email addresses, and you on the web, I have your email addresses. So we will be working together. I'm going to be working with the folks Bernie for president, people for Bernie. And then we're going to be creating strategy, and you all will help to create the strategy for what we're going to do. I think it makes an awful lot of sense, and I can't see how we don't do this. We're going to get New Hampshire to vote for Bernie. Who here has ever done phone banking? Okay. Who here has ever done canvassing? Who has done, what else did I have down here? Who's worked the polls, stood at the polls and done exit interviews and stuff? Those of you who haven't, it is a blast. Okay. You will never meet more fun, engaged, and energized people than you will when you go out and canvass with a group of folks, or sit in a room together and call together, or work the polls together. Back in 2008, Obama's first run, I happened to be going from Arizona to California and had a weekend free. And so I said, where should I go for the election? Because I already voted. So I went to Reno, Nevada. and volunteered with the Obama campaign and did phone banking and canvassing and poll watching and literally sat there on their cell phone having voter ID numbers read to me over the phone so I could put them in the computer and tell the canvassers where to go walk to at noon to get people who said they were going to vote and hadn't yet. And that was the first year we turned Nevada blue. They had quite a party that night. But the energy in that room those days that I was there was just unbelievable. And the fun, the memories I had.
I think we have to stress that we're gonna have to go out and work and do the type of thing that Jeff did. It makes a difference. We need the boots.
Yep. New Hampshire in particular is an interesting state. From what I hear from some of my friends who are more savvy and experienced political operators than I am, New Hampshire is really a boots on the ground state. They repel phone callers. I think part of it is just they get unstoppable phone calls, robocalls. So, you don't want to be a voter in New Hampshire because you lose 6 months of your life. So one of the things that my friend said, who ran, he was very involved in the successful McGovern campaign, which took New Hampshire, didn't take much else, but took the New Hampshire primaries. And the way they did it was people went out, large group of people, and they went and made friends with people in New Hampshire and went out and listened to them. And the words he said was that George McGovern didn't think canvassers were doing their job unless they knew the dog's name, the kid's name, and by the third time they'd seen their new friends, they were invited to dinner. So the level of touch that is needed is very large. It takes a lot of people. It takes time. But the idea that we could go in and befriend folks in New Hampshire and go listen to them, have them feel like they're heard, and then start chatting with them about how can they get what matters to them done over a period of, say, 3 to 4 visits between now and January when the New Hampshire primary is. The primary is 8 months away. That's what turns the state. That's what lets any candidate, regardless of their funding, take New Hampshire. And we all, I think, know how important New Hampshire is to candidates for the progress. So I don't know if that's what we're going to do. I don't know how we're going to do it. But I do know that everybody here in this room signed the list, which the backside of the list actually had a long disclaimer about what you just signed up for. Probably none of it. Same thing on the website. There was really fine print about on the website. So you're all in, which is fabulous. Other thing you're going to do. So we just talked about going over to New Hampshire and meeting people you don't know and making friends. You all have friends. You need to talk about politics with them. You need to talk about this. Bernie doesn't have the name recognition that he should. He has, in Vermont, it's Bernie. Otherwise, I travel a lot. Otherwise, it's Bernie who? They don't know. He doesn't have name recognition. So we need to talk to our friends everywhere we go outside of Vermont. Anytime you're talking to somebody outside of Vermont, have you heard of Bernie? Even if they're radical conservative, have they heard of Bernie? Because when we start looking at Bernie's topics, he's going to piss off the big bankers, but oh well. I don't have any really big banker friends. So talk to your friends. Get the word out.
But even in Vermont, do you read the Valley News Friday or whenever it was? So many staunch Democrats say, oh, well, he'll help move Hillary to the left.
So that is the
Good luck with that.
that is the
Right.
conventional
I'm
wisdom.
sure she'll change.
That is
back
the
and
conventional
forth.
wisdom that that Hillary's camp certainly would like us to believe. I think it's the conventional wisdom that Hillary's camp wanted people to believe when Obama was running. Didn't work. And I think it's true. Hillary will move to the left. Hillary will move wherever she needs to move to.
Right.
And I don't really care where Hillary moves to. I care about where Hillary rests.
Right.
And where Hillary rests is in the lobby of Monsanto.
Well, the other thing about Bernie is that he's gonna force her to speak her mind truthfully.
I think he's
Because
running
he is who
against,
he is.
I think he's running against the GOP more than he's running
Right.
against Hillary.
He actually isn't running against Hillary. That's a great point,
Right.
Bob.
He's just running.
He is running on his issues. He is running on the 12 points. He's running what's important for America. If Hillary would like to talk about that, he'd be glad to discuss it with her. If she doesn't want to talk about it, it's going to look pretty strange.
He also isn't running on abortion and gay rights and so forth. Those are issues, but that's not what defines the economy in the country and where we are.
He's running the things that matter to the whole country every day. And there are plenty of gay middle-class people who need a job. So next, you all knew this was coming. What's next?
Money.
Now, people for Bernie Sanders specifically told me they're not trying to raise money with these events. They're not. I am. I'm trying to raise money, not for people for Bernie Sanders, but for Bernie Sanders for president. Because he's going to need money. And I had a delightful conversation with Meg when she walked in. Meg, who's never given any money to any politician, but knows that her $5 or $25 matters to Bernie. So that feeling of empowerment that we can get, that our contributions matter. We got 100,000 contributions to make that 1.5 million. Well, you don't get there with that size contribution unless you have a lot of contributions. So we need to contribute. We don't need to contribute 4 figures and 5 figures and 6 figures. And he's not taking contributions from corporations. He's not setting up a super PAC. And you can say that that's stupid, but it also makes him honest. Nobody can ever come at him during this campaign and say, but you took money from so-and-so. You're not saying it, but I know that when you're in the White House, you're going to do favors for them. There's going to be nobody that can be pointed at and say, you're working for them. He's working for all of us. So the reason I'm asking for donations tonight is because I want you to get used to it. I don't want a lot of money. I just want to take your spare change out. Your spare change, your small folding cashes, and small folding bills, as they say. Write a check if you want to. But I want you to get in the habit of making a donation tonight. However big it is, however small it is, doesn't matter. About making the idea of making a contribution to your future. Selfishly, I'm trying to actually raise more money through me because I'd like to have this group that creates some political clout, and I'd like to have this clout to pull Bernie into a meeting here. Not to go lobby him. He believes in what I believe in. So, I mean, the beautiful thing about the guy is I don't need to lobby him because he's there. I just need to get him elected.
I'd just like to comment that Lori and I have already made a commitment of a monthly payment through on a website that we're committed to every month having something go to Bernie's campaign. So it doesn't hurt a whole lot, but every month it adds up.
And yeah, it's beautiful. You go to BernieSanders.com if you want to do it online. BernieSanders.com, hit the contribute button, and another window pops up. And they always give you the fill-in buttons for what you can contribute, and then they have the other. It's usually like 50, 250, 500, and 1,000, right, or other. This is 10, 30, 50, 100, other.
I think it goes to 150. I think that's the highest. I think that was the highest.
Yeah. So it's like a whole different scale. It's just fabulous. He's not looking for that. He's not expecting that. There is the monthly button, which is a great way to put down $25 a month, and it does add up to real contributions. But even just the $25 one time adds up. So there's a little basket behind Woody there, and you can put cash in it. Nothing is going to pay. I have paid for this event. I bought the food. That's done. Anything that goes in the basket goes to Bernie Sanders 2016. Okay. So cash, check made out to Bernie 2016. Easy to remember. Check can be mailed to me. Made out to Bernie Sanders 2016. I'll get it to the campaign. If you go to the website, contribute, and you want to send a check in, there is an address to send a check directly to Bernie as well in Burlington. Or as I said, BernieSanders.com. There's a button. So lots of ways to contribute. It's very easy. They know how to get famous. All right, so I said all that. Bob, we wanted to give him a link for the Huffington Post article.
Okay.
This is an article on the 12, I keep on wanting to refer to it as a 12-step plan for America.
Maybe it shouldn't be.
Yeah, really.
Total surrender.
To a higher plan.
Total surrender. God grant me the serenity to change the things I can and
Wisdom.
the wisdom to know the difference.
So
What's
the
We
URL?
left out one part.
We did, but that's the
Ours?
gist of it.
Which one? For this?
For this first, yeah.
I'm looking for it right now. So just keep going and I'll tell
Okay,
you.
how about our
To
URL?
change the things I can and the wisdom. to
BobTheGreenGuy.com / people for Bernie, people -for Bernie
I always get the slash wrong. It's this way, right?
dash. It's a, yeah,
People for Bernie, people dash.
people -for Bernie.
And since this has been such fun, Aaron, you can sit through this on the web and watch the whole thing from the beginning. And I'll quiz you next time I see you.
No problem.
Or Daniel, you can sit through it and then you can quiz your dad. And then the website, do you have a link or yeah? Okay. So the way you find the initiatives is you search Google for Huffington Post,
Yes, really.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't have it on his website yet.
No. That's a search.
While you're at BobTheGreenGuy.com site, you can also look at the carbon forum that occurred this week.
Yes.
So,
Although the sound system is not very good.
so first thing I wanted to say, as I begin to wrap up here, is a very special thanks to Bob. Who
Thank you, Bob.
who is known to many on the web as Bob the Green Guy. He provided the live streaming services, all gratis, donated, spur of the moment, spent his entire day working on this stuff. You can find him, Bob the Green Guy, on Facebook or on his website. Lots of great stuff like the Carbon Forum, like the divestment panel from Phoenix, Montpelier. Bob is working on the live streaming. It's getting better and better and better. He will have volumes of stuff up there as he moves forward, as well as just fantastic links to articles through his Facebook feed and on his website. So great resource as well as generous contributor here. Second, thank you for coming. Nobody can leave yet because the cookies aren't gone. Okay, and I'm serious about that. We're gonna lock the door. I don't know about you all, but I am really, really excited that Bernie's running. I am incredibly excited. I mean, I'm a hopeful guy in general. But that's been really hard for me to be hopeful when Hillary was the choice. So I'm not standing here today to move Hillary's conversation to the left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm standing here today to have a Vermonter be president. Share that. Share that excitement. It's tremendous. Share the story. It's tremendous. It's a story. This sounds like hyperbole. I get it. It's true. This is a story for America. This really is a story for America. This can be a transformative election. He can't do it all by himself. And the Congress has been abysmal on both sides of the aisle, frankly. But it's been abysmal. But having Bernie in there, boy. I mean, he's a Vermonter, but he's from Brooklyn.
It's definitely gonna stir the pot
I don't-
and make them stand up.
I'm worried.
I don't know if
for
it's
him.
like,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I don't know if there's a better combination than a Brooklyn-born Vermonter. And that's it. So, we can chat, we can talk, we can eat cookies.
You can
And
give people doggy bags on the way out.
you on the website, thank you for listening, and I hope it's been enjoyable for you. And you are also on the list, and please be involved.
I forwarded the web link to your Gmail. You could forward it to people whose Gmails are here.
I will forward the web link to the Huffington Post article to the people who are here, because you've all signed in, and also to the people on the web,
It's
because
on
they
the
all
web
signed in.
already. It's on the video now.
So,
Thanks, Jeff.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
And you do not need to leave now.